The volcanic Saturday is a staple of college football. That's where you wake up at 10 a.m. and think you have it all figured out, and by the time the dust settles at sundown, you may have lost a lot of money, but at the very least, you're totally disheveled. You can't believe what just happened. Wow. Upsets all over the place, every time frame. Well, that didn't happen last year, which is ironic because it was a very, relatively speaking, competitively condensed year. I mean, there were a lot of teams in play. We just didn't get the volcanic Saturday. Well, where could that come this year? I've got 4 candidates for you. Week 1, you may not have to wait long. It would be fitting, actually, if week 1 chose to just go off the rails. So to close the weekend, we have Southern Cal versus LSU in Las Vegas. That's the Sunday night game. But before that, you realize Miami opens at Florida. You could cut the tension with a McDonald's plastic knife. That's how thick it'll be. Humidity as well. But it'll be really, really touch and go for whoever loses that one. Georgia plays Clemson in Atlanta. So you'll find a lot out about that Georgia defensive line. You'll find a lot out about that Clemson wide receiver core, for example, in the offense in general. Notre Dame opens at Texas A&M. That's a helmet game. That's a beautiful matchup, and bless the fine folks at Notre Dame for going on the road in an environment like that in week 1. You know, Notre Dame never plays anyone, except they do every year. So that's also Penn State plays West Virginia in week 1. I'll just leave this there. What if West Virginia pulls that one out? They were doubted last year and overcame and overachieved. What if they started this year with a win over Penn State? I'll leave that with you there. We move on to week 9. Not that craziness couldn't befall the sport between week 1 and week 9, but week 9 is pretty loaded. And if you ask me where we're going to be this week, I have no clue. Missouri at Alabama. Keep in mind, this is week 9. So is Bama an undefeated team, a 2-loss team? Same with Missouri. Could be a playoff dark horse contender. Oklahoma's at Ole Miss that day. LSU at Texas A&M is that day. Florida State at Miami is on this day. I think it should bear close watching that Nebraska's at Ohio State. I will be paying attention to like West Virginia at Arizona. That could be a phenomenal game because, as you know, the Big 12, I have decreed to be America's college football conference in 2024. So there will be a lot of very, very balanced and competitive games every week out there. What about week 11? 2 weeks later. That's Bama at LSU week. That's Oklahoma at Missouri. That is Georgia on the road at Ole Miss. That's one of the bigger games in the Grove in recent memory. And especially if those records hold up there, then you got Florida at Texas on this same day. You've got Washington at Penn State. Have no clue what Washington's going to be this year. But if they're better than expected, imagine them going into Happy Valley. What's Penn State by that point, by the way? Clemson is at Virginia Tech on this day. FSU is at Notre Dame on this day. That, as of now, may be the only game that Florida State is a point spread underdog in the entire year. We'll see how that plays out. And then a few weeks later, of course, we have rivalry weekend. That is week 14. That is Thanksgiving week. You got the Iron Bowl going down in Tuscaloosa. You've got Florida at Florida State. And then at the same time, Oklahoma is closing their season on the road at LSU. You know what? I'm going to get back to this one in a second. We've got Michigan, Ohio State. But do you realize Texas A&M cranks back up? I will say this. We're going to have some charged environments this fall. We always do. College football is the greatest sport on the face of the earth because of that. I challenge you to find me an environment that will be more electric in 2024 than Kyle Field when Texas comes to town. It's going to be some tough decisions to be made on our end because there are honestly 3 or 4 games on this weekend that I would circle. But we can't be at more than 1, or can we at NetJets? But we really struggle to be at more than 2, let me put it that way. And so someone's going to get left out. Maybe it's us that gets left out. But Texas at Texas A&M. How delicious is that? Washington's at Oregon that day. Notre Dame's at USC. These are games we couldn't even fit on the graphic. So week 14, week 11, week 9, week 1, I think those will deliver at the very least.